Ask HG, Episode 6, Part 4. Hello, I'm HG Tudor, and we're going to take a further walk through the many observations and questions that were posed in the comments section of Ask HG Episode 5, Part 2, for the purposes of extending your knowledge about narcissism, about me, and also, at the appropriate points, a dash of entertaining. We start with a question from Patrice Holterman. I'm asking H.G. Tudor. Well, you wouldn't be asking the Banjo Man, would you, seeing as it's a question posed on one of my videos. When will you come out with a description of how to know a normal? For we who are done studying narcissists who abuse empaths and how to recognize a normal man after being groomed by a narcissistic father. All you need to do is go to the video description, see the knowledge vault, go into the knowledge vault, open the door, stroll inside, admire the cavernous interior, the shelves of information, shelf upon shelf of excellent audio and written material that aids your understanding about narcissism, and obtain understanding emotional empathy, the difference between normal, empath, and narcissist. That will answer your question, Patrice. Next, we move on to a question from Chase Holmes, who poses this. How should a non-narcissist business owner deal with employees they have identified as narcissists? You apply this doctrine. You're fired! And that solves the problem, doesn't it? Of course, there may be these pesky things called employment laws or labour laws that get in the way. Darn nuisance. I've always adopted the approach that where somebody is a threat to your business, you black bag them and you worry about the claim thereafter. Why? Well, most people have to go and find another job, don't they? So off they trot, they find another job, which means that their level of loss is pretty minimal. They have an obligation to mitigate their loss, and they will have to go and find alternative employment. If they don't do so expeditiously, they don't eat, they can't afford their rent, and therefore they're driven to have to go and find that alternative employment, which means that their level of loss is relatively low, and that may even cause them to question whether it's worth fighting a case to begin with. And even if they do and you lose, well, there's a payment out that has to be made, often a deal can be done, but that's far more satisfactory than having somebody in your organisation that's causing you a day-to-day problem. When you've identified that they're a problem, deal with them, get them out, black bag them and remove them. Now, in greater terms, as you want to deal with somebody who's a narcissist, you could do no better than go along to the knowledge vault, open that door once again and stroll in and admire the cavernous interior, etc., etc., and obtain how to handle a narcissist at work. Tells you everything you need to know and is an excellent package to give you all of the insight as to what you should do in the scenario that you have described. No Contact Sandy Williams, great name. Can you discuss the propensity of empaths to refer to the narcissist in their lives as my narcissist? It seems to denote ownership, which is exactly how a narcissist thinks mine. The comments are full of this phrase, my narcissist, and it creeps me out every time I read it. Well, it's quite simply just somebody referring to the relevant narcissist that they were involved with in their life. It doesn't really mean ownership in the way certainly that we would look at it, because it's coming from the empathic perspective. One perhaps could write the narcissist I was involved with, or the narcissist that I was married to, or the narcissist that's in my family, but that becomes a little more convoluted than just writing "my narcissist." It's just a standard phrase, and I wouldn't get too creeped out about it. Yes, you might find it odd because you think that it denotes ownership. It doesn't. Of course, in a sense, it retains a connection, and people would be better served to try and think of that individual, well, not at all, of course, with the principle of no contact, but if they're going to do so, as to shift it to the narcissist. But it's a habit where people talk about my narcissist. Jasmina Bojic. Any tips on recognizing narcissist customers as they come to me for dress alterations? Well, you could utilize the early warning detector, which you'll find in the Knowledge Vault. What I would think you need to be looking for is individuals who turn up late for their fitting or turn up too early and demand to be seen, those that don't listen to your advice, individuals that insist on you doing something which can't be done. For instance, if they're the size of the whale and they want you to make them look slim and enticing. Individuals that keep changing their mind, saying they want it done version A, then version B, then version C, then back to version A. People who argue with you about the cost. People who ask you to do things for them and expect that they can do so without paying you. Individuals that aren't paying you on time for, when they should do. Arguments about the quality of the material. Suggesting that you said you would do something when you never did. All of those are examples that exhibit a sense of entitlement, manipulation through triangulation, revision of time, denial. Exhibits a lack of accountability for the relevant behaviours, shows an absence of emotional empathy. Remember, just one or two doesn't mean the person is a narcissist, and also bear in mind that it depends what they're coming to you for a dress alteration. So let's say, for instance, you're fitting them for a wedding dress. Of course, that's a huge day for that individual. And even an empathic individual could get a little pernickety because of the external stressor of wanting to look great on the big day. So you need to look at a range of behaviour over a period of time, as I always explain. But those are the sums of things that you might be looking for. The Light in the Dark 100. Dear magnificent all-knower of narcissism, Mr. HG himself, good start. Can empaths be killers? Yes. And not have any remorse or empathy for the taking of human life? Generally, an empathic person would have remorse or empathy. They would do so in certain situations where it was necessary. So you might have somebody who faces a home invasion situation and defends themselves, and the presence of that invader is an external stressor which reduces their emotional empathy, which allows them to pull the trigger. Many people, of course, could not do so. They, even in a situation of extreme duress, they're still not able to bring themselves to pull the trigger. The taking of another life is something that many people, understandably so, find difficult to do. But some people can do so and are empathic because that external stressor reduces their emotional empathy. Also, of course, there are those with emotional empathy who are in a professional role have to engage in such behaviours, and the imposition of the professional role again alters the extent of the emotional empathy. There will be individuals thereafter who will feel bad about what they've done. However, in some instances they may not, where they determine that, of course, the person was a scumbag and was threatening their life. And many people would still feel bad about it. I wish I hadn't had to take that person's life, would be a common thing that's said, but it was necessary in the circumstances. Rashmika. Hi HG, exclamation mark. Based on your travels, how would you rank countries according to your empath-narcissist framework? For example, I imagine the USA as a lower, lesser narcissist. Contentious. I can hear all of the Yanks now grabbing their pitchforks and torches and thinking, where is this Rashmika? Where do we find him or her? How do we track this person down and get them to retract what they've just said, that libelous observation about the United States? So you state, I imagine the USA as a lower, lesser narcissist and Sweden as being some sort of empath. Interesting that you choose Sweden. Are you based in Sweden, I wonder? Are you Swedish? Your name doesn't suggest that you are, but who knows? Well, it would be too difficult, in a sense, to generalize and describe a country within the framework, because, of course, take, for example, the United States. It's a huge country with a lot of people, and in a sense it has countries within countries, doesn't it? There are certain cultures that exist within certain areas of the United States, which could be a country all in itself. So one could perhaps do it for entertainment value, but you'd have to do it on a very broad brush basis. I might look at this one day, perhaps when I'm being massaged by some velvet, soft-skinned goddesses, and as my mind whirs on what is ahead for the day, I might start to jot down some notes about that. Heather Williams asks, can a mid-range narcissist eventually become aware of what they are? Negative. No, they can't. I talked to my ex-narc about this. He never denied that he is a narcissist, even answered a lot of questions, said he's been doing this for a long time, but said he's capable of feelings. Does he know or not? No, he's an unaware narcissist. What you have to understand is that there are certain narcissists who think they are aware, but they're not. You get quite a few of these popping up on social media. They claim to be aware narcissists, but they're actually not. And it's clear because the information they give is incorrect. It's wrong. And all they do is regurgitate information that they found elsewhere, and often come along as a sort of pity play. Sometimes they boast and brag about how brilliant it is being a narcissist, and in other instances, oh, it's hell on earth, etc. These individuals are what I call the narcissist who would be king. Basically, they're mid-range narcissists that don't realise they're mid-range narcissists. They think they're graters, but they're not, and thus they still remain unaware. And the fact, for instance, that he said that he's capable of feelings, narcissists do have feelings, but the fact is that him admitting that he's a narcissist to you demonstrates he's a mid-range narcissist, and he's doing that to triangulate you with the concept of narcissism, and quite possibly by way of pity play. An aware narcissist is not going to say to you, oh yes, I'm a narcissist. Why? There's transference of power. I tell you that I'm an aware narcissistic psychopath, but none of you know who I am, so it doesn't affect the power dynamic between us. But I certainly wouldn't admit it to an IPPS, for instance, or one of my friends. Ryan Grundy, back again with another question, Ryan. You really ought to be making a donation to the House of Tudor at this rate. HG, what happens if a narcissist takes psychedelics? He has a trip, man. It doesn't cause any greater enlightenment with regard to suddenly realising that there's a world outside narcissism. Kate Blue, I think you are 100% accurate. Thank you. I appreciate that. And you are correct. I have a question. I came to believe my narc was in complete slavery. He has to act in the way he does. He seems to have no choice. Do you have free will? Well, that's certainly an expansive question indeed, Kate. We are slaves to our narcissism in terms of to the prime aims. We must always have control. We must always be fueled. Not every moment of every day, but we do need to obtain it. We attain the character traits and residual benefits. So we are slaves to the pursuit of the prime aims. Of course, for those of us that are upper echelon, greater and ultra, it's so easy to do, it doesn't feel like a chain or a yoke around us at all. For the lesser and mid-rangers, it's more difficult. Of course, they don't realise that they're slaves to the prime aims because they don't know what they are. But it will take a toll on them in some respect. There are degrees of free will, I think, is the right answer, in terms of I can make decisions because I have a wider skill set that enables me different options to get to the same place. But ultimately, the prime aims have to be satisfied. 445646. Thank you for giving me the entry code to your house. I'll be round later. I think I know what you do for a living. Okay. Psychopaths do come in handy sometimes. Indeed. No fear, and you can sleep at night if you're put in a position where you have to kill. Perfect, really. Yes. Absolutely. Having no conscience means I sleep straight in my bed. Light goes out, head on pillow, moments later, your glorious narrator is fast asleep, and it's as if I'm dead. 4 or 5 hours later, up I go and away, and off I go, pursuing those prime aims. Mandy Grace. Hi, HG. Can you please talk more about triangulation with secondary non-intimate sources? I found many videos on triangulation with former intimate partners, but not on non-intimate partners. So you mean family members and friends and colleagues and neighbours who are non-intimate secondary sources. Well, triangulation can be broken down into three main areas: triangulation with events, triangulations with people, and triangulation with objects. So, for example, I could triangulate a friend by turning up in my new Jaguar and saying, "What do you reckon to this then, matey boy?" And he says, "Cool car, HG," and starts to ask me questions about it. I am triangulating him with the object, which is the car. He's asking questions about it, thus taking an interest, denotes that he's under control, and he's providing me with fuel. For instance, I could sit in a bar with a friend preoccupied on my phone, so that friend starts tutting and saying, "When are you going to talk to me?" etc. I am now triangulating in an adverse, in a malign way, with that individual by focusing on my phone and, in essence, not dealing with them. If, for instance, I was in a bar with a friend and I started chatting up the waitress rather than talking to him, that's a malign triangulation with that non-intimate secondary source by triangulating him with the non-intimate, so far at least, tertiary source that's serving behind the bar. So in essence, triangulation with an intimate partner is easily transferable to a non-intimate one across those three types of triangulations that I've mentioned. Holly Ann. HG, I was wondering, is there a way to manipulate a lesser narcissist and extract a revenge? I'm currently reading your book, Revenge, and I get the impression that trying to extract revenge on a greater narcissist will not work. But ways of thought-out strategic planning attacking the pillars can empaths exact revenge on a lesser narcissist. Revenge can be effected against all narcissists, and that's the assassin's revenge that's referred to in my book, Revenge. What you have to keep in mind is that it's not for everybody. Their natural empathic nature may preclude them from wanting to do it. Emotional thinking, of course, drives somebody to think that they should pursue revenge, and they later, when they reduce their emotional thinking, aren't interested any longer. But for those that want to do so, and you have to have a 6-month period of total no contact to get your emotional thinking down to the right level, so that you approach this like an ice-cold-hearted sniper, then yes, a lesser narcissist can be manipulated to obtain that revenge. Carmen Miranda. Lovely hat you've got there. Always makes me feel a little bit hungry when I see it. HG, which school and cadre of narcissists would you say is the most dangerous? I think I've touched on this already by explaining that it's really how do you categorize danger, and all really are, in a sense, in different ways. Kalena. Hi, HG Tudor. I would like some more information about how to deal with a malice campaign and how to end it as soon as possible. I'd like to know how to protect myself if I come across any ultra or greater narc again. Well, you haven't come across an ultra save through the auspices of this, because I'm the only one, and it's highly unlikely that you've met a greater narcissist also. They are very rare, and if you want to get confirmation of that, I'd recommend that you put them through the narc detector. Many people honestly but mistakenly think they're involved with greater narcissists, and they're not, as a consequence of their lack of understanding about narcissism and the presence of emotional thinking. With regard to malice campaigns, you need to first of all identify whether you're actually involved in one, and the best thing you can do in that regard is to go to the Knowledge Vault and obtaining Understanding the Malice Campaign. That inexpensive material goes into considerable detail to help you understand what they are, how to recognise one, and how you can deal with it. Tara Stewart. Hello, HG. Hello, Tara. Can you let us know, do unaware narcs acquire more knowledge instinctively as they manipulate people all of their life? Yes, they will do so. Can a mid-range narcissist perfect his craft? Well, no, because he's mid-range, so he's always going to have deficiencies. Regina Brohan. 28 years of cheating, and when he was caught a few times, I managed to find out when asked why. His answer was, all men do, it's normal, I'm out, 10 months, still trauma bonded, such fun. Well, that wasn't a question, and he said, When asked why all men do it, that's basically a deflection and diminution of his responsibility, as in, it's no big deal, all men cheat, so don't get your panties in a twist. Well done on being out for 10 months. You reference still being trauma bonded, and I suspect that you're not out to the extent that you think you are, and I'd encourage you to organise an audio consultation with me so that I can test your no-contact regime, point out where you've been going wrong, and help you remove your emotional thinking, get it down to the lowest level, because the trauma bonding of which you speak is just a manifestation of the addiction to emotional thinking. Well, that concludes part 4. Join me in part 5 as I work my way through the many questions that you have posed. Ensure that you like this video and encourage others to access it so that they can have questions that they may well be posing that are similar to yours answered by me. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.